back to my channel. I am so glad to have you with me. I hope you are having a fabulous day. My name is Rebecca, and today is a video that I have been super excited to film, and it is my first trimester recap. As of today, I am 14 weeks and 4 days pregnant, so probably will be almost 15 weeks by the time I edit this and you're seeing the video. But I am so excited to share with you what my experience has been, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And there's been some of everything. I am excited to talk about what my symptoms were, how I found out I was pregnant, which I kind of covered on another video as well, but I'll briefly catch you up on that, and then what apps I've been using, and just all of the details on my pregnancy. So let's jump right in. I found out I was pregnant very early on. I thought I had a cold or the flu coming on because I had some flu symptoms, aches, pains, nausea, things like that. And since we were trying to get pregnant, I decided to take a pregnancy test just to be safe. Turns out I did not have the flu at that time. I did get it later on in the first trimester. I was just pregnant at that time. So that is how I found out I was pregnant. I found out very early on, about 3.5 weeks in. So I have known for quite a while about this exciting news. I've had a lot of different symptoms, a lot of different challenges and changes going on with my body, and I'm going to share every bit of that. Okay, so I do have my phone here with me because I am suffering from terrible pregnancy brain, and if I don't have my list of everything that I wanted to share with you guys, I will probably forget about half of it. So first, I'm going to start out with some of my symptoms in the first trimester. Now that I am in the second trimester, I'm going to save the symptoms I'm having now for another video that I'll do later on. But in the first trimester, one of my biggest symptoms was fatigue. I was chronically exhausted 24 hours a day. We would come home from work and I would help Corey do stuff with the dogs, and I would be in bed by 7:30 every single night. It never failed. And then I wouldn't have to get up until 6 o'clock the next morning, and I would still wake up exhausted. No amount of sleep was enough. I could take a nap in the middle of the day, which is something that I never do. I did not want to leave the house if it wasn't for work or for a vet appointment or a doctor's appointment. I was just too tired to do absolutely anything at that point in time that wasn't absolutely necessary. So the next thing was nausea and morning sickness. For any of you ladies out there that have been pregnant and have not had morning sickness, or who have had very mild morning sickness or nausea, I am jealous of you. I was so sick at times, I felt like I was going to die from the morning sickness. I would feel nauseous in the morning, but would never throw up in the morning. So whoever called it morning sickness is definitely a liar. I'm just going to be point blank with that. They were never pregnant to come up with that term, because it does not just last in the morning. I am very naive when it comes to pregnancy. I don't have a lot of people around my age in my family, so no one in my family has been pregnant. I have a few friends with kids, but for the most part, I'm pretty naive with pregnancy. I did not expect morning sickness to be something that lasts all the time. Certain foods would make me sick. Chick-fil-A French fries were a no-go for me. I may never eat them again. They just made me extremely sick. There wasn't much I could eat. I actually had a really big loss of appetite because of the morning sickness and the nausea. Now, luckily for me, a lot of people say this lasts from like around week 6 through their first trimester, which is 13 weeks. For me, thankfully, it started around 5 weeks, so a little bit earlier than some women, but I was over it and no longer throwing up by 9 weeks. So I was incredibly thankful for that, but it was worse for me in the late afternoon and evening. So by the time we would get home from work, I would be jumping out of the truck to throw up. And that's not even an exaggeration. It killed me in the evening, and in the late afternoon was definitely the worst part. We weren't telling people that I was pregnant yet, and my grandmother actually guessed that I was pregnant because I had told her that I had the flu because I was so sick. And I work with my grandparents, so I couldn't exactly hide it completely. And she figured it out. We kept denying it until we told her. But yeah, I had morning sickness extremely bad. And then another symptom, and this was actually something that I didn't realize was a pregnancy symptom until I got pregnant, and that was cramping. I didn't have it extremely bad, but starting a few days after I found out I was pregnant, I would start to have this cramping that was almost like my period was going to come, but of course it wasn't because I'm pregnant. And if I would lay down or I would sit and rest for a few minutes, it would go away. But I had that on and off probably from about 4 weeks until 6.5 weeks. And it was always worse in the evenings. When I would lay down at night is usually I would lay down because I was exhausted from fatigue and also because I was just feeling a little uncomfortable at that time. Thankfully, it didn't last too long. It wasn't anything extremely bad like double over in pain, but it was just a symptom that I definitely was not expecting. I got some pregnancy acne. I am a person that unless I get very, very stressed, I have never had acne in my life. And I have developed some breakouts, especially early on in my first trimester. I stayed pretty broken out all the time. Luckily, that started going away towards the end of my first trimester. I'm sure it was just my hormones were going absolutely crazy. And so they were taking that out on my skin. And sorry if you're hearing the dogs bark right now. My husband is taking them out to go potty for the night because it is a little bit later here when I'm finally having the time to film this. So hopefully they won't be too loud or I can edit it out when I'm editing. The next thing is bloating. That was something that I noticed very early on, maybe also around 5 weeks, was I didn't have a pregnancy belly, but I was just bloated all the time. Like I just ate a huge fast food meal 24 hours a day. Now my bloating has actually turned into a little bitty baby bump. It is not much by any means. But I am proud of it because it's no longer a bloated belly, and at least to me, you can tell it's a pregnant baby belly. I don't feel like it's that big of a bump, and I'll show you here in a second. My husband says it's bigger than I realize, so maybe I'm just not realizing it quite yet, but it is starting to show. All I can wear now is like my big leggings that are nice and comfortable and stretchy. I do have a couple of dresses that are nice and stretchy, but still kind of tight to where it doesn't just make me look like I am chubby and putting on weight. You can actually tell that there's a little bit of like a round belly there, but I'll go ahead and show you and you can judge that completely for yourself. So like I said, it's not much, but this is what I'm kind of working with. It's a little something. It's definitely more than it was. You can tell a little bit more this way. So it's not much of a bump, but I am definitely proud of it. And the biggest difference of how I can tell that it's like a baby bump is my stomach is hard. So like no matter where I push on it, I cannot suck it in. It is definitely a hard baby bump going on around here. Okay, so now that we have covered the bloating and the baby bump, another symptom was sore boobs. So my breasts were extremely sore. They actually That's why I keep pulling on my bra. I'm starting to outgrow my bra. They grew really, really quickly, which was something that surprised me. I expected them, of course, to grow, but I didn't think that would be until like the 3rd trimester. I knew sore boobs were like an early pregnancy symptom, but I didn't realize that growth was also a symptom so early, because they grew a ton and they hurt like crazy, and that is something that has not gone away. They still hurt all the way through the 1st trimester. Another thing is the smell of things. Oh my goodness. There were quite a few things that made me nauseous from the smell when I was suffering from morning sickness. I can't remember all of them off of the top of my head, but one thing is Corey gets these pretzel crisp pretzels, and the smell of the one I think is something onion, I don't remember exactly. He opens it up in the car and I'm like, it's got to go before I hurl all over the vehicle. So that is my number one scent that I cannot handle. And then also in our house, we have a lot of stuff with dogs that is not meant for someone who is pregnant, like a dog having an accident or throwing up. I cannot handle that since I've gotten pregnant. Nope, nope, nope. Just please get it away from me and bring me the dog back when it is nice and clean. Corey's actually been having to bathe the dogs more often, or I'll bathe them, whichever one of us has time, because sometimes the smell they get just from going outside and running around and playing will make me a little nauseous. That's not as bad now that I'm out of the 1st trimester, but that was something in the 1st trimester that really bothered me, especially one of my Yorkies, Dallas. He just has this scent about him after he's gone like a week without a bath, and it was more than I could handle. So another thing I wanted to talk about was taking prenatal vitamins in the 1st trimester. That was extremely hard for me. There were some days that I couldn't take them because I could not stop throwing up from morning sickness. Didn't matter if I took them in the morning, middle of the day, at night. Just as soon as I would take them, I would throw them right back up. Luckily, once my morning sickness went away, that went away. There would be times where I could take them 3, 4, 5 days in a row, and then there would be a day or two that my body just could not handle it. Now, my body is no longer nauseous, no longer sick, so I'm able to take those every day and give the baby all the extra nutrients and help that it needs for growth and development. But that was something that worried me early on in my pregnancy. Apparently, it is pretty normal from what my doctor told me. As long as I was taking them on a regular basis, it was fine if I missed a day or two. Just start taking them again as soon as possible. And now we're going to talk about, this was probably the hardest part of my 1st trimester, and that was when we were at Disney back around Thanksgiving. I was about 7.5 weeks pregnant, and I actually ended up in the hospital or in the ER that night. We had decided to go back to the house and take an early rest because I was very, very tired. We got back to the house. I had taken a couple of the dogs out to go potty and came back in and noticed that I was bleeding. Since this is my 1st pregnancy and I hadn't experienced any bleeding, no implantation bleeding, no bleeding in the first 3 weeks of knowing that I was pregnant, it really freaked me out. So we decided to go to the emergency room just to be safe, especially being so far away from home. And when I went to the emergency room, we found out a couple of things. Thankfully, we saw our little one. We heard the heartbeat. It had a nice, strong heartbeat, actually in the 170s, and that was a huge relief. I just remember sitting there trying not to cry while they were doing the ultrasound and just praying for the baby to be okay. And thankfully it was, and everything worked out, but I was diagnosed with a small hematoma. What it is a pool of blood that had developed, and that was what was causing the bleeding. Again, they don't know exactly what caused it. They're assumptions were possibly because we had done a lot of walking at Disney. I wasn't riding any rides that had height requirements because they are not safe for pregnancy. We were taking it very easily, resting, but because I had been resting so much when I first found I was pregnant from being exhausted, they said it was probably just pushing my body a little too hard, and that could be what caused it. It could have had nothing to do with walking so much. It's really just something that is unknown. And they told me to follow up with my doctor about it in a week when I got back home. Not that we weren't gone from home for a week, but to follow up with my doctor within a week. And I happened to have an appointment already scheduled for my first prenatal appointment with my doctor that next week. So that worked out perfectly. And when I went to my doctor, they did check the hematoma. It had gone down in size. They'll check it again at my anatomy scan at 17 weeks, so 4 weeks from now. Well, actually 3.5 weeks from now at this point, but they'll check that again and see how it's doing. So hopefully all will be good with that. I was told most hematomas actually go away on their own. So that's what we are crossing our fingers for. Now, the other thing that I was told while I was at the hospital was I've never known my blood type. And it turns out I am Rh negative blood. And so with that, I take it that it's kind of like my Rh negative blood was seeing the baby almost like, I don't know if I'm explaining it right, so don't come for me if I'm not, but almost like something that shouldn't have been there, and it was trying to attack the baby, or it could try to attack the baby. But so they gave me a shot of Rogam, I believe is what it was called. And they told me for future pregnancies, I'll just need to get that right away. But that once they gave me that shot, there was nothing that I had to be worried about, that would take care of it. So I was very thankful to know that. But it was good to find out my blood type because I have never known in my life. And both of my parents are no longer here with us, so I don't exactly have anyone that I could ask. So it's good to know what my blood type was. If you're trying to get pregnant, I would definitely recommend trying to find out what your blood type is before, so that way if you are Rh negative, you can be prepared to get that Rogam shot as soon as possible. So yeah, that was another thing that happened early on. And then now onto a little more of a positive note, because that is always very hard to talk about, because I really thought we were going to lose the baby that night, and thankfully we did not, and I'm incredibly thankful for that. But I want to uplift this video a little bit and talk about the different pregnancy apps I'm using. So I'm using 3 different apps currently. I use the Ovia app, which once I missed my period, I was able to track my pregnancy in that app from the very beginning. I use the What to Expect app, which is by the same people that have the What to Expect When You're Expecting book, and then the Baby Center app. You're probably thinking, why do I use so many apps? And it's because every app will show your baby in size comparison to something else, and they all show you something different. So like Ovia currently shows my baby at 14 weeks, 4 days as being about the size of a house mouse. So that is super cute. It also in Ovia it shows you how big your baby's hand is, the little tiny like blue hand, versus how big their hand will be. It does the same thing with the feet. It's just something that I find super cute. And then in the What to Expect app, you can actually change it over to be Disney themed, which is perfect for us. And currently our little baby is as big as Mulan's comb. Of course, I love the Disney comparison. Baby Center app, it shows that the baby is the size of a lemon. So of course it might seem crazy to some people, but I need to know like every different comparison, like size-wise, that my baby is, compared to whether it be fruit or an item or an animal, whatever it may be. I am just curious and I want to know. I want to know as much as I possibly can find out. So once again, I am through the first trimester. For the most part, like, I talk about it now and I talk about it and I make it seem like not as bad as it was. I truly, in my first trimester, I was not a very happy pregnant woman. Like, yes, I was so happy to be pregnant, especially after that experience we had in the hospital, but I was a very, very sick pregnant woman in my first trimester. I'm just now starting to enjoy my pregnancy because I was not enjoying it at all in the first trimester. I was pretty miserable all the time. Now I'm starting to get like my normal energy back. I actually cleaned the house like by myself for the first time today, meal prep, did all like the normal stuff I would do on a day that I'm at home. Took puppies to get declawed and tails docked and all that fun stuff at the vet. So it definitely, I am more normal than I've been since I became pregnant, and I am incredibly thankful for that. But my first trimester was not fun. I know it's different for everyone. No one has the exact same experience. Now mine, while it could have been much worse, when I think about some pregnancies that friends or acquaintances have had, it could have been much worse, but it felt probably more terrible than it actually was. I am so grateful to be through the first trimester, feeling more like myself with more energy so that I can actually enjoy life and prepare for this little one to come and do all of the exciting things. And like I mentioned, I have an ultrasound tomorrow that is for the gender, but I won't find out until we cut our gender reveal cake this weekend. So that will be coming out in a video, I'm sure, really soon. We're doing the gender reveal, just Corey and I think, at home with some of the dogs, and the dogs are gonna cut the cake, and it's just gonna be something that's a really cute thing for the two of us to do with our fur babies, because they're our children too, and we want to include them as much as we can. I've actually already booked my maternity photos. I wanted to book those far enough out that I would make sure I got a date within the weeks that I wanted. So I booked those for May, and then I actually booked a session that the package I chose comes in with newborn photos as well. So those are already booked and taken care of, so that we just have to schedule it once the baby's here. I'm super excited to be doing all of these little things. The closer I got to the second trimester, like the more excited I got. And now that I'm in the second trimester, you know, the chance of miscarriage drops drastically. So that gives me a little more security in the fact that this little one is doing okay. Like I said, we have our anatomy scan in 3.5 weeks, so we'll get to see our little one again then, and that will be super exciting. So far, everything, according to my doctor, is going perfect and normal, and we will see this little one in approximately 26 weeks. So time is flying by. Even though the first trimester was pretty miserable for me, it also flew by so quickly. I remember on Christmas when our families were told, I told Corey, I said, it doesn't seem like I should already be 12 weeks. Like, it just doesn't seem possible. But it definitely was, and the time flew by. But as you can tell, I am rambling. My dogs are barking. I'm sure Corey would love some help taking them outside to go potty one last time tonight. So I'm gonna end this video right here. But I am so appreciative of you watching my video. I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel and become part of my YouTube family. And if you want to stay caught up with my everyday life, I'm trying to get better at being active over on Instagram. So head on over there. It's RebeccaLynn_GA, so that you can catch me there on a more regular basis and see puppies, pregnancy, life in general, all of that fun stuff. And I will catch you next time. Bye.